I never thought I'd bury my wife and lose my son in the same godforsaken weekend. The little bastard drove off with the last of her ashes rattling in the glove box, leaving me choking on exhaust fumes and 40 years of unspoken lies. And as his tires kicked up gravel into my face, I realized the revenge I'd been simmering for decades wasn't just for her death, it was for the boy I raised, who just murdered what was left of our family. My name is Emery Harlan, and if you think abandonment stings like a bitch slap from fate, try getting ditched by your own flesh and blood on a stretch of nowhere highway in eastern Montana. It was the morning after Lena's funeral, my wife of 38 years. Gone at 59 from a cancer that ate her from the inside out like it had a personal grudge. The service had been a quiet affair in Billings, the kind where folks murmur condolences over styrofoam coffee cups and pretend the deceased didn't chain-smoke Camels since she was 16. Our son, Jake, 29 and built like a linebacker from too many bar fights and not enough sense, had flown in from Seattle, where he was chasing some tech startup dream that sounded more like a Ponzi scheme to me. He showed up late, reeking of craft beer and entitlement, hugged me once with the enthusiasm of a tax audit, and spent the reception glued to his phone, texting God knows who about deals that were gonna change the world. We'd driven out to the ranch in my old Ford F-150, the one Lena called the Beast because it guzzled gas like a frat boy at last call. The plan was to scatter her ashes up on Black Butte, her favorite spot overlooking the Yellowstone River, where we'd first necked as teenagers, back when love was stolen kisses under cottonwoods and promises that neither of us kept clean. Jake rode shotgun, fiddling with the radio until he landed on some podcast about Silicon Valley disruptors. I gripped the wheel tighter than necessary, the urn wrapped in her favorite quilt on the seat between us. She wanted this. Son, I said, voice gravelly from the lump in my throat. One last ride before we let her go, he snorted, not even looking up.
Yeah, Dad.
Poetic. But can we make it quick? I've got a flight back tonight. Investors waiting. Investors. Like he was some hotshot VC instead of a code monkey scraping by on ramen and regret. I bit my tongue, because that's what you do when your kid's circling the drain. You throw him a rope, even if it frays your own hands raw. The road to the butte was a dirt snake twisting through sagebrush and jackrabbits, the kind of backcountry that swallows cell signals and spits out your worst memories. We'd barely crested the first rise when Jake's phone buzzed like a hornet in his pocket. He yanked it out, eyes lighting up like he'd hit the lottery. Holy shit. It's Marcus. Says the pitch deck's gold. Wants a call in an hour. He glanced at me, that fake smile cracking at the edges. Pull over.
Dad.
I need to take this. I eased the truck to the shoulder, dust clouding up like a bad omen. The river glittered below, mocking us with its lazy flow, while the butte loomed ahead like a fist raised to the sky. Jake hopped out, pacing a tight circle, his voice dropping to that urgent whisper rich boys use when they're wheeling and dealing. I sat there, staring at the urn, tracing the quilt's faded blue patterns with my thumb. Lena's laugh echoed in my head, husky, unfiltered, the sound that pulled me through oil field layoffs and barroom brawls. Emery Harlan, she'd say, you're the only man stubborn enough to love a mess like me. And I had. God, had I. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Jake's call wrapped, but he climbed back and looking like he'd swallowed a porcupine, spiky, agitated. Change of plans, he said, slamming the door. Marcus is flying in tomorrow. Needs me back tonight to prep. We're this close to 7 figures.
Dad.
You get it. I stared at him, the engine idling like a heartbeat on life support. The Butte's 5 minutes up the road. Your mother's waiting. His jaw clenched. That familiar Harlan stubbornness flaring mine. Twisted through his veins like bad whiskey. Mom's gone.
Dad.
Ashes don't care about scenic routes. Drop me at the airport on the way back. Yeah, I'll Uber from there. Something snapped in me then. Not loud like a gunshot, but quiet, like the creak of floorboards under too much weight. Jake, I said, slow as molasses in January. This ain't about your goddamn app. This is about her.
Us.
The family she died holding together with spit and prayers. He laughed, a sharp, ugly bark that echoed off the canyon walls. Family? Spare me the Hallmark bullshit. You think I don't know what you did? How you let her waste away in that shithole house while you chased ghosts in the oil patch. Mom deserved better than your broke-ass loyalty. The words landed like haymakers, each one bruising deeper than the last. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out except the hiss of my own breath. Jake, my boy, the one I'd coached through Pee Wee football, bailed out of juvie at 18 for boosting a car. Financed through community college on credit cards, sitting there judging me like he hadn't sucked at the teat of our dysfunction for years. And beneath it all, the unspoken rot, the secret I'd buried deeper than Lena's coffin. The one that bound us tighter than blood. He grabbed the urn, slinging it under his arm like a football.
Fine.
You want to play martyr? Stay here and commune with the dirt. I'll handle Mom's goodbye myself. Before I could lunge, he was out the door again, striding toward the Butte's trailhead. I killed the engine, boots hitting gravel, heart pounding like a jackhammer.
Jake.
Get back here. He didn't turn, just flipped me off over his shoulder, a casual middle finger that cut deeper than any knife. By the time I caught up, he was at the overlook, the wind whipping his hair into devil horns. The urn sat open at his feet, gray flakes stirring like restless spirits. What the hell are you doing? I roared, grabbing his shoulder. He spun, eyes wild, shoving me back hard enough to send me stumbling. What I should have done years ago, cut the cord. You're toxic.
Dad.
Always have been. Mom told me everything before she went. The lies. The debts. The way you covered for Uncle Ray's bullshit so he could keep the ranch afloat. You think I want that poison in my life? In my future? Uncle Ray. The name hit like a sucker punch. My brother. The golden boy who'd charmed his way through life until the pills and the poker debts caught up. 20 years ago, Ray had torched a rival's barn in a drunken feud, arson that could have landed him life in Deer Lodge. I'd taken the fall, confessed to a lesser charge of reckless endangerment, did 18 months in county, lost my roughneck job, and watched Lena cry herself hollow while I rotted behind bars. For family. For the ranch. For Jake. So he'd have a roof with his name on the deed someday. Ray swore he'd go straight, pay me back tenfold. Instead, he OD'd in a Reno motel 6 years later, leaving nothing but IOUs and a headstone. I'd never told Jake the full truth, shielded him from the Harlan curse of bad blood and worse choices. But Lena, in her final days, doped on morphine in spite, must have spilled it all. And now here we were, her ashes scattering on the wind because my son decided truth was the sharpest weapon. You don't know shit, I growled, stepping closer, the edge crumbling under my boot. I did that for you. For all of us. Bullshit, he yelled, voice cracking like thunder. He scooped a handful of ash, flinging it toward the river below, not reverent, but furious, like he was purging a curse. You did it for your ego. For the myth of the big, bad protector. Mom died regretting you.
Dad.
Regretting wasting her life on a man who'd rather play hero than fix what he broke. The world tilted then, red haze clouding my vision. I lunged, not to hit him, but to grab the urn before he desecrated the last of her. We grappled, a tangle of elbows and curses, the wind howling our sins into the void. He was stronger, younger, fueled by that millennial rage that turns grief into gasoline. With a shove that felt like betrayal incarnate, he sent me sprawling backward, my heels catching the lip of the drop-off. I teetered, arms windmilling, the river a silver ribbon 200 feet down. Jake's face, my face, twisted through time and resentment, froze in something between horror and relief. For a split second, I saw the boy again, the one who'd climb into my lap after nightmares, whispering, "Don't let go, Daddy." Then he turned, snatched the urn, and bolted down the trail toward the truck. By the time I clawed my way back to the road, dust-caked and shaking, the F-150's taillights were shrinking specks against the horizon. He didn't look back.
Didn't stop.
Just dumped me there, on that remote stretch of MT 312, with nothing but my wallet, a half-pack of smokes, and the echo of Lena's quilt flapping away like a white flag of surrender. I walked. For miles, it felt like, thumbs out to phantom semis that blurred past without slowing. The sun climbed, baking the asphalt into a griddle, and with every blistering step, the plan crystallized, not revenge in the Hollywood sense, with guns and monologues, but something slower,
Sharper.
American as apple pie and arsenic, the unraveling of everything Jake thought he owned. Because he didn't know the half of it. The secret I'd kept wasn't just about Ray's fire. It was about the insurance payout Lena had squirreled away, the one from my prison stint, doubled when the ranch accidentally flooded 2 years back, courtesy of a little creative plumbing I'd overseen from afar. $500,000, tucked in a Cayman account under a ghost name, earmarked for Jake's fresh start. But fresh starts cost. And betrayal? That shit compounds interest. Hitchhiking took 3 hours and a greasy diner breakfast on a trucker's dime. By noon, I was in Billings, wiring cash from an ATM to rent a beater Chevy at the airport Hertz. My phone, miraculously charged from the truck's console, buzzed with voicemails. Jake's. Curt and guilty. Dad. Shit. I panicked.
Call me back.
We can fix this. Then Lena's hospice nurse, confirming the paperwork I'd signed last week, power of attorney over her estate, including the ranch deed he'd assumed was his birthright. I didn't call. Instead, I drove west, toward Seattle, the Cascades rising like jagged teeth on the horizon. The radio droned NPR segments on wealth inequality, ironic, given the Harlan legacy of scraping by on fumes and favors. Jake thought he was building an empire? I'd burn his foundation to ash, brick by brick, and make him watch from the penthouse he'd never afford. The first move was simple, a call to my old parole officer, Buddy Klein, now a PI in Spokane with a nose for dirt sharper than a switchblade. Emery, you son of a bitch, he chuckled when I picked up. Heard about Lena. What's the play? Son's gone rogue, I said, merging onto I-90, semis honking like impatient geese. Need eyes on him. Seattle. Tech scene. and dig up whatever Marcus character's hiding, bank records, X's, the works. Buddy whistled low. Revenge tour? Thought you went straight after the joint. Straight as a Montana road. I lied. The Chevy's AC blasting cold truth in my face. Just family business. He laughed again, promising dirt by sundown. I hung up, fingers drumming the wheel to a stone's track. Gimme shelter. Fitting as hell.
Shelter.
That's what I'd given Jake. Every damn day. Even when it meant swallowing raisins like bitter pills. The barn fire?
Yeah.
I'd confessed, but Ray had pulled the match. I'd covered because blood's thicker. And in Big Sky country, family ain't optional, it's the noose you tie yourself. But Lena knew. In her morphine haze, she'd whispered it all to Jake, painting me as the villain to absolve her own ghosts. She'd cheated once, early on, with Ray, a drunken night that birthed no Jake. Thank Christ. But scarred us all. I'd forgiven. Buried it deeper than the ashtray of regrets. But forgiveness has a shelf life. And Jake? He'd weaponized it, turning her deathbed confession into his emancipation declaration. Seattle loomed by dusk. All glass spires and fairy horns, a far cry from the ranch's creaky porches. I checked into a Fleabag motel off Aurora Avenue. The kind where hookers knock at midnight and the walls thrum with neighbors' arguments. Buddy's email pinged at 8:47 p.m. Dossiers on Jake and Marcus Hale. 32. Venture capitalist with a trail of bankrupt startups and a penchant for insider trading whispers. Kids in over his head, Buddy noted. Hale's using him as bait for a pump-and-dump scam on that app. Crypto bullshit. Your boy's the fall guy. I leaned back on the sagging bed, the city's neon bleeding through threadbare curtains. Fall guy. Like father. Like son. But this time, I'd flip the script. Jake wanted independence? I'd give him a masterclass in Harlan hospitality, the kind that leaves you broke, broken, and begging for the family you torched. Sleep came in fits, haunted by Lena's eyes, those sharp green slits that could cut through bullshit like a hot knife through butter. In the dreams, she was scattering her own ashes, laughing as they swirled around Jake's feet, binding him in gray chains. Fix him, Emery, she'd say, her voice a smoker's rasp over the wind. Or let him burn. I'd wake sweating, the motel's thin walls amplifying the symphony of Seattle's underbelly, sirens wailing, drunks retching, the distant thump of bass from some warehouse rave. By dawn, the plan had teeth sharp, yellowed things honed on decades of blue-collar grudges. First stop, a burner phone from a corner bodega, prepaid and anonymous, because in the revenge game, trails are for suckers. I texted Jake from it, ashes scattered. Truck's yours. Don't wait up. No reply, but I pictured his face, pale under that tech bro scruff, guilt gnawing like termites in drywall.
Good.
Let it fester. Buddy's second drop hit at 9 a.m., coordinates for Jake's loft in Capitol Hill. A converted warehouse with exposed brick and views of the sound that screamed, over-leveraged millennial. I drove the Chevy slow through morning traffic. Coffee bitter on my tongue. Radio tuned to KUOW for the morning drive. Stories of Amazon layoffs and housing crises that mirrored my own unraveling empire. The ranch was collateral now. Mortgaged to the hilt for Jake's education, but the Cayman Fund? That was my ace. Liquid and lethal. Parking across from the loft, I killed the engine and watched. Jake emerged at 10:15, looking like death warmed over in yesterday's suit, urn tucked under his arm like contraband. He hailed an Uber, black SUV, whisking him toward Hale's office in Belltown. I followed at a distance, the Chevy blending into the commuter swarm like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Hale's firm occupied the penthouse of a gleaming tower, Hale Ventures. All chrome and arrogance, the kind of place where dreams go to get strip-mined. I didn't go in. Instead, I hid a payphone outside a Starbucks, old school, because apps leave fingerprints, and dialed the SEC tip line. Anonymous concern, I drawled, channeling my best roughneck drawl. Marcus Hale, Belltown. Insider trades on crypto tokens via proxy apps. Check the blockchain. Wallets tied to Shellcore in Belize. I hung up before the question started, heart racing like I'd just boosted Ray's old Chevy back in '98. It wasn't much, but it'd plant seeds. Feds love a good white-collar scalp. And Jake? He'd be the eager intern caught holding the bloody knife. Lunch was a burger at Dick's, grease dripping like accusations, while I scrolled Jake's socials on the burner's data plan. His feed was a shrine to aspiration, gym selfies, pitch deck teasers, captions like disrupting the status quo, family first. The hypocrisy burned hotter than jalapenos. Family first? He'd left me for dead on that road. Lena's memory ground under his ambition's tires. A new post popped, him at Hale's desk, grinning with the urn propped like a trophy. Honoring the queen. Next round's for you, Mom. Likes poured in from his network, empty praise from strangers who'd ghost him when the SEC came knocking. Afternoon blurred into reconnaissance. I tailed him to a co-working space in Fremont, where he huddled with devs over whiteboards scrawled in jargon that might as well be hieroglyphs. Tokenomics, they muttered. Yield farming, words that soured my stomach like flat beer. Jake was in his element, gesticulating wildly, the urn forgotten in his backpack. I slipped inside during a bathroom break, blending as the grizzled handyman type, cap low, toolbox borrowed from the Chevy's bed. His station was a mess, energy drink cans, crumpled notes on exit liquidity, and a photo booth strip from last year's office party. Jake arm in arm with a brunette who looked too polished for his league. Under the desk, taped to the frame, a USB drive. I palmed it quick, heart hammering, and ghosted out before he returned. Back in the motel, I plugged it into my ancient laptop, Lena's old Dell. Creaky but loyal. Files spilled open, pitch decks, code snippets, and emails. One thread gutted me, Jake to Hale. Timestamped 2 weeks before Lena's diagnosis turned terminal. Dad's a liability. Ranch is leveraged. Use it as collateral for the seed round. Mom's fading fast. Inheritance play could seal it. Hale's reply, smart. Emotional leverage is gold. String him along till closing. Leverage. The word slithered through me like snake oil. Jake hadn't just dumped me, he'd plotted it, turning Lena's death into a balance sheet line item. The betrayal deepened, roots twisting into the marrow of our history. I'd borne Ray's arson rap to save the ranch. Yes, but also because Jake was 5 then, thumb-sucking and terrified, asking nightly if Uncle Ray's fire would come eat us. I'd lied through visits, smuggled him candy from the jail library, whispered stories of outlaws who rode free after the storm. And Lena? She'd stood by me, but the guilt of her affair with Ray festered, manifesting in her chain smoking, her late-night rages. You're both poison, she'd scream at me, then pull me close, apologies tasting like ash. Now Jake, Ray's echo in ambition if not in vice, was cashing in on that poison. The USB held more, Wire transfers from Hale to Jake's account, kickbacks disguised as consulting fees. 50 grand. Easy. Enough to fund his escape, but not enough to outrun the Harlan curse. Night fell heavy, rain sheeting the motel window like tears we never shed at the funeral. I called Buddy again. Deeper on Hale. And Jake, find me his weak spot. Girlfriend? Debts? Something to twist. Twist. Buddy paused. Static crackling. Emery. This ain't checkers. You poke that bear, it bites back. Let it, I said, staring at the urn's photo on my phone. Jake's smug post. Like sticking up. I've got scars enough for both. By midnight, Buddy delivered. Jake's girl. Riley Voss. 27. Marketing whiz at a rival firm. Engaged 6 months. Ring from a pawn shop if the Yelp reviews on the jeweler were gospel. And debts? Student loans ballooned to 6 figures. Plus a crypto dip that wiped his savings last crash. Riley didn't know, thought he was the stable one, the disruptor.
Perfect.
I texted from the burner. Riley, we need to talk. About Jake. Coffee tomorrow. Your office lobby. A friend. Attached, a screenshot of the email thread. Redacted just enough to intrigue. Sleep evaded me after. Mind-churning scenarios. Revenge wasn't about fists or felonies, not yet. It was psychological judo. Use their momentum against them. Let them trip on their own lies. Morning brought sun mocking the gloom. Seattle's coffee culture buzzing like a hive of caffeinated bees. I arrived early at Riley's firm, sleek offices in South Lake Union. All open plans and ping-pong tables. She spotted me in the lobby, tall and tentative in her blazer. Blonde hair pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail. You the friend? She asked, sliding into the seat across from my untouched latte. Worse, I said, meeting her blue eyes, Lena's eyes. Minus the cynicism. Father-in-law to be. Emery Harlan. Her face drained of color. Faster than milk in cereal. Jake never. He said his folks were gone. Estranged. I slid the printout across the table. The email's incriminating lines staring up like indictments. Estranged is one word for it. Dumped me yesterday, after the funeral. But this is premeditated bullshit. She scanned it, lips thinning to a razor edge. What do you want? Money? The wedding's off if this is true.
Truth as free. I lied. Leaning in.
But Jake's playing with fire. Hale's a crook. And your boy's the patsy. Walk away now. Or get burned with him. Riley folded the paper deliberate. Like origami from regret. I loved him. Thought he was different. Her voice cracked. Seattle tough girl facade splintering. What now?
Now.
I stood, tossing a 10 on the table for the untouched drinks. You tell him it's over. And if he asks why, send him my way. Family reunions overdue. I left her there, staring at the paper like it was a death warrant. Driving back to the motel, the radio caught a segment on filial estrangement, psych babbles about toxic masculinity and generational trauma. Bullshit. Trauma's what you carry when you take the fall for kin, only to watch them spit in your face. Jake's phone lit up as I merged onto 99, Riley's name. Then a flood of missed calls.
Good.
Let the fractures spiderweb. Buddy rang at noon. Voice hushed like a confessional. SEC's sniffing Hale. Your tip panned out. Raids tomorrow. And Riley? She's packing Jake shit as we speak. Beautiful, I murmured. The sound glittering mockingly to my left. One more thing. The ranch deed. Quiet transfer to a trust. My name only. He chuckled dark. Cutting the cord. Lena to prove. Lena. The thought of her twisted the knife fresh. She confessed the Ray affair on her deathbed too, not to absolve, but to free me. It was once.
Emery.
He was broken.
Like you.
Forgive us both. I had. Mostly. But Jake? He'd inherited the worst. Ray's charm. My temper. Lena's secrets. Dumping me wasn't rebellion, it was evolution. Harlan style. Evening found me at a dive bar in Pioneer Square, nursing whiskey sours while Jake's world imploded via texts I imagined but didn't read. The bar was old Seattle, loggers' ghosts in the wood paneling. Jukebox crooning Springsteen about working-class heroes who never win. A woman sidled up, mid-40s, laugh lines like mine, ordering a gin and tonic. Rough day, she asked, eyes scanning my rumpled shirt. Rough life, I replied, clinking glasses. Her name was Carla, nurse at Harborview, divorced with a kid in college. We talked ranch sunsets and city grind, her hand brushing mine accidental on purpose. For an hour, the revenge haze lifted, replaced by something human, warm, fleeting. But as closing time neared, Jake's face intruded, and I excused myself with a number scribbled on a napkin. Rain check, I said. She smiled sad. Don't wait too long. Cowboy. Back in the Chevy. Rain resuming its assault. I drove to the loft. Jake's Uber pulled up as I idled in shadows, him stumbling out. Duffel in hand. Face thunderous. Riley's silhouette in the window above. Boxes stacked like accusations. He pounded the buzzer. Voice muffled but frantic. Babe. Open up. It's a misunderstanding. She didn't. He slumped against the door. Head in hands, the urn peeking from his bag like a judgmental specter. I watched, unseen, the weight of 40 years pressing my chest. Part of me wanted to floor it, leave him to his unraveling. But revenge demands witnesses. I texted the burner. Miss me yet? His phone buzzed. He snatched it, squinting at the unknown number. Typed furious. Deleted. Typed again. I could hear the plea unspoken. Dad, fix this. But fixing was for fathers who hadn't been buried alive. The rain turned biblical overnight. Seattle's gutters choking on the deluge like the city itself was purging sins. I holed up in the motel. Laptop glowing with Buddy's latest haul. SEC warrants served at dawn. Hale Ventures crawling with feds and windbreakers. Agents carting servers like conquered spoils. Jake's name peppered the filings, junior associate, but listed on suspicious wire transfers. Material witness, the redacted doc read. No charges yet, but the noose was threading. My burner pinged at 6 a.m. Jake. Who is this? Dad? If it's you, fuck you. Riley's gone because of your poison. I typed slow, savoring the keystrokes. Poison? That's rich from the boy who scattered his mother's ashes like confetti. Check your email. Hale's toast, your app's the kindling. Attached, the SEC presser link. Time-stamped fresh. Let him choke on it. He didn't reply, but I pictured the spiral, pacing the loft. Fists through drywall. The urn mocking from the mantel.
Good.
Let the isolation sink in. The same bone-deep loneliness I'd tasted on that Montana road. Coyotes yipping mockery under starless skies. I'd walked 20 miles before that trucker picked me up, each step a vow etched in blister and bile.
Jake?
He'd crack faster. City boy that he was. No sagebrush to toughen the soul. Morning coffee at a drive-thru. Bloskas my muet. Then a detour to the courthouse downtown. Public records on the ranch. I'd filed the trust papers weeks back. Lena's signature shaky, but legal. Witnessed by her nurse. Jake's inheritance? Vaporized. Retitled to a blind entity, Harlan Legacy LLC. Me as sole trustee. No foreclosure yet, but the mortgage servicer would call soon, demanding payments he couldn't magic from thin air. I'd seeded the Cayman funds to cover it, but only if he crawled back begging. The real play unfolded at noon, a meet with Hale's disgruntled ex-partner, Vic Langford, tracked via Buddy's network. Vic was a paunchy ex-Wall Streeter, nursing a scotch in a Queen and pub, eyes darting like a man who'd burned too many bridges. Harlan, as in the Mark Hale's been crowing about, he smirked over his glass. Ice clinking judgment. Mark. I slid into the booth. Voice low thunder. More like the match. Heard you're out a bundle on his latest scam. Vic's smirk faded, replaced by the sour grapes of the screwed. $70K. Wired last month. Apps DOA now. Feds froze everything. Your kid's the goat. You know. Hale's got layers of deniability. Jake's the fresh face they roast. I leaned in. The pub's dim lamps casting shadows like co-conspirators. And you, willing to testify, paint the picture of fraud, embezzlement, the works? He swirled his drink.
Considering.
What's in it for me? Immunity's a bitch to score. Revenge, I said simple. Sliding a thumb drive across the scarred oak table, the USB's copy. Loaded with Hale's dirtier emails. This gets you on the right side of the feds.
Plus.
A cut of the restitution pie. Jake's collateral. The ranch, its leverage. Help me squeeze. You eat. Vic pocketed the drive. Eyes gleaming predatory. Harlan blood.
Huh?
Ruthless.
Deal.
Meet at my lawyer's tomorrow. We'll draft the affidavit. Hale's done. Your boy's next if he doesn't flip. I left with a nod. The rain easing to a drizzle that mirrored my mood. Relentless, but clarifying. Ruthless. Yeah. That was the Harlan brand, stamped from Ray's fire-starting fingers to my prison-forged resolve. Back in the day, after the arson rap, I'd emerged from county a ghost, jobless. Wife hollow-eyed. Son wide with questions I dodged. Lena rebuilt us. Waitress shifts funding Jake's braces and bikes. But the fracture lingered. Ray's sorries were bar tabs and broken promises. His death the mercy that left debts unpaid. I'd covered those too. Dipping into Lena's insurance nest egg, the one from my work accident that padded the arson settlement. Secrets on secrets. A family vault of vipers. Jake texted again at 2 p.m. Please. It's falling apart. Come get me. No, Dad. No apology, just raw need. The prodigal stripped bare. I ignored it, driving instead to the waterfront, parking the Chevy where ferries churned the sound into froth. Tourists milled, oblivious to the undercurrents, snapping pics of gulls and gantries. I sat on a bench. Lena's quilt, retrieved from the truck via a Billings tow, draped over my knees. Her scent faint but fierce, lavender and regret. A memory surfaced unbidden. Jake at 12. Ranch, summer. Us mending fences after a storm. Why'd Uncle Ray go away? He'd asked, hammer pausing mid-swing. I'd lied easy. Bad choices. Bud. But family's forever. You learn. You fix. He nodded solemn, swinging beside me, sweat beading on brows that matched. Now, forever was a four-letter word, and fixing meant breaking him first. Buddy called as shadows lengthened. Feds grilled Jake this afternoon. He's lawyered up, public defender. Green as grass. Hale's singing, pointing fingers everywhere but his mirror. Beautiful chaos, I murmured, folding the quilt deliberate. Keep the pressure on. And Vic, make sure that affidavit names Jake as complicit. Enough to scare, not sink. Playing God. Emery? Buddy's tone edged wary. Worse, I said. Playing father. Evening devolved into stakeout. Jake's loft. Lights flickering like a failing heart. He emerged at 8, haggard in hoodie and jeans, duffel slung heavy. Uber to a dive in Ballard, neon, open sign buzzing welcome to the damned. I followed on foot, rain-slick streets reflecting my silhouette, gaunt, determined, a specter in flannel. Inside. The bar was a haze of stale hops and despair. Pool cues cracking like bones. Jake hunched at the end of the stick, nursing a pint, eyes hollow as he scrolled his phone, Riley's unanswered texts. No doubt. I slid onto the stool beside him, casual as sin. Rough day. Sun. He froze, glass halfway to lips, then turned slow, face crumpling from shock to fury. You. How? Why? Family sticks closer than blood, I said, signaling the bartender for 2 more. Or in your case, closer than exhaust fumes on a dirt road. He slammed the glass down, foam sloshing. Fuck you, Dad. This is your fault, Hale. The feds. Riley packing my shit. You tipped them? After everything. Everything, I echoed. Voice steel under velvet. Like you plotting to mortgage your dead mother's legacy? Or dumping me like roadkill because your investors called? Nah, Jake. This is consequence. American as the dreams you chased, his fist clenched, knuckles white as the urn's ghost between us. Mom told me the truth. You let Ray burn that barn, took the fall to play martyr. Left her alone. Broke. Raising me on scraps. You're the reason we're cursed. The bar noise faded. Patrons sensing the storm. I leaned in, breath whiskey warm. Cursed? I took the rap for Ray to save the ranch for you. 5 years old. Crying for your uncle. Scared the fire'd come back. Lena? She forgave me, even after her slip with him. But you? You turned her deathbed whispers into a get-out-of-jail-free card for your greed. He recoiled, color draining. Slip? Mom and Ray. She said it was nothing. Nothing leaves scars, I said, sipping slow. Like the ones you're carving now. Hale's done, feds tomorrow. Full raid. Your app? Smoke. And the ranch? Trust's mine. You want in? Apologize. Mean it. Jake's laugh was broken glass. Apologize? For cutting toxic loose? Go to hell. Dad. I'll build from zero, better without your baggage. He stood, tossing bills on the bar, storming out into the night. I let him go, the doors slam echoing my heartbeat. Baggage. If only he knew the half that came in millions. The leverage on Hale's shell core-eyed, quietly shorted via Buddy's broker pal. Zero? I'd drag him to negative. Watch him claw up through the mud I knew too well. Back at the motel, Carla texted from the napkin number. Cowboy? Rain stopped. Shelter? Tempting. Her normalcy a bomb. But I replied, storm's just brewing. Soon. Revenge first. Redemption maybe later. Dawn broke gray. SEC vans swarming Hale Ventures like locusts. News alerts buzzed. Tech mogul nabbed in fraud bust. Jake's face flashed in a sidebar. Associate detained. I drove to the federal holding. Signing in as kin. The guards nod perfunctory. Visitation room. Sterile tables. Buzzing fluorescents. Jake shuffling in orange jumpsuit. Cuffs clinking like bad karma. Dad, he whispered, collapsing into the chair. Eyes red-rimmed. It's bad. Hale flipped, says I knew everything. Riley's lawyers sending back the ring. I sat opposite. Hands folded calm. Knew?
You did.
Emails don't lie. His sob was guttural. A dam breaking. I panicked. Mom's gone. The ranch slipping. Hale promising the moon. Thought if I cut you loose. Loose. The word tasted like bile. You buried me alive.
Jake.
For a moon made of fool's gold. He reached across. Chains rattling.
Help me.
Lawyer.
Bail, anything.
Please. The plea hung. Polarizing even me. Monster or messiah. I stood slow. The room's chill seeping bone deep. Bail's the Cayman Fund. $500,000. Yours if you sign over your Hale shares. Testify clean. And the apology? In blood. Tell the truth about Ray. Lena. All of it.
To me?
First. His nod was frantic.
Yes. God.
Yes. I walked out into sunlight that felt stolen. The Chevy waiting like a faithful dog. Help or hook. The line blurred. Harlan ambiguity at its finest. But as sirens wailed distant, Hale's empire crumbling, I felt the twist coiling, the one that had split opinions like a jury hung on morals. Bail hearing dragged like a hangover in July, judges gavel cracking dry over legalese. Jake's public defender fumbling motions like a rookie shortstop. I sat in the gallery's back row. Anonymous in a borrowed suit from a Capitol Hill thrift. The Cayman wire transfer burning a hole in my pocket app. 500,000, the clerk intoned, and Jake's eyes met mine across the room, gratitude laced with something feral, like a cornered wolf sizing the hand that feeds. Processing took hours, bureaucracy's slow grind mirroring the ache in my chest. Lena would have hated this circus. Her pragmatism favoring backroom deals over courtroom theater. Justice is for suckers. Emery, she'd say, exhaling smoke rings like halos for her cynicism. We make our own. And we had, through floods and foreclosures. Ray's shadow looming like a bad debt collector.
Now.
With Jake free on my dime. The making circled back, redemption or reckoning. He emerged at dusk. Streetlights flickering to life on the courthouse steps. Jumpsuits swapped for ill-fitting sweats from a care package I'd arranged. Dad, he choked, hugging awkward. Bones sharp under fabric. I thought.
Shit.
Thank you. I patted his back once. Brisk as a businessman's handshake. Don't think yet. Motel first, clean up. Then we talk terms. The Chevy ride was silent torture. I 5 crawling with rush hour regret. Seattle's skyline mocked us. Spires piercing clouds like accusations. Jake fiddled with the radio. Landing on classic rock, Dylan's like a rolling stone. The line, how does it feel? Hitting like a freight train. He switched it off quick. Mumbling. Riley texted. Wants her stuff back. Says I'm a liar. You are, I said flat. Eyes on the road. But lies got legs in this family. Ray taught me that. He stiffened, gaze out the window at passing strip malls. Mom said you covered for him, the fire. Took the blame, so he'd inherit clean. Why? Because blood's a chain. Son. Breaks if you don't weld it. The words hung heavy. The ranch's ghost between us. I'd welded all right. 18 months of lockdown for Ray's rage. Emerging to Lena's strained smile and Jake's wary stare. Daddy home, he'd ask, then hide when I reached. Trust rebuilt slow, with bedtime stories sanitized of arson tales. Motel check-in was perfunctory, the clerk's nod recognizing repeat trouble. Jake showered endless, emerging pink-scrubbed but haunted, towel knotted at his waist. I waited on the bed's edge, laptop open to the affidavit Vic had couriered, pages crisp with perjury's potential. Sign here, I said, sliding it over with a pen. Testify Hale coerced you, full truth. No Harlan whitewash. He scanned it, water dripping from curls. And the ranch? You mentioned a trust. Mine, I confirmed, voice even. Lena's wish, protect it from fools chasing holograms. Lie number 1. She'd signed blank, trusting my judgment in her fog. The real hook? The addendum buried in fine print, Jake's signature seeded any future claims. Plus a non-disclosure on family sins, Ray's affair included. Now public if he balked. His jaw worked. Adam's apple bobbing. All of it? For bail. For family, I echoed his earlier bullshit. The irony tart as cheap Merlot. He signed. Hand trembling, ink bleeding like confessions. Good, I said, snapping the laptop shut. Lawyer tomorrow. Then home. Ranch needs mending. Home. The word landed soft, but Jake's flinch said volumes. That night, we shared takeout Chinese from the carton, awkward as a blind date. He picked at lo mein, spilling fragments, Hale's pressure, Riley's dreams of white pickets crumbling, his app's code now Federal Exhibit A. I wanted to be better than you, he admitted, eyes down. Not chained to dirt and debts. Better? I laughed bitter. Fortune cookie crumbling in my fist. Ray said the same, charmed his way to ruin. You? Same hunger. Different wrapper. He looked up sharp. Then why help? After the road. The ashes. Why not let me rot? Because love's the ugliest chain. I thought. But said, because you're mine. Flawed as fuck. But mine. We slept uneasy. Him on the fold-out. Me upright in the chair. Dreams tangled in what-ifs. What if I'd let Ray burn? What if Lena's slip birthed truth sooner? Dawn brought Fed's fallout. Headlines screaming, tech empire crumbles. Insider fraud exposed. Hale in cuffs. Stone-faced for cameras. Jake's mug relegated to footnote. Associate released on bail. Vic's affidavit leaked selective. Painting Jake sympathetic, coerced kid. Not kingpin. Reporters swarmed the motel by 9. But we slipped out the service exit. Chevy's tires squealing toward Seattle-Tacoma. Flight to Billings was coach cattle class. Jake wedged beside a snoring sales rep. Me across the aisle nursing black coffee. He dozed, fitful. Murmuring mom in sleep. The urn's absence of void we both felt. Touchdown brought Montana air, crisp. Unforgiving. Sage-scented salvation. Rental truck to the ranch, 60 miles of prairie poetry. Golden under harvest moon. The spread greeted us weathered but waiting, porch sagging. Barn silhouette stark against hills. Jake stepped out slow, boots crunching gravel. face awash in nostalgia's cruel light. Home, he whispered, like a prayer or curse. Needs work, I grunted, unlocking the door. Inside, dust motes dancing in beams. Lena's quilt draped on the sofa like she'd just stepped out for smokes. We toured silent, kitchen with its Formica scars. Jake's old room frozen in teen chaos, posters of Kurt Cobain. Skateboard propped like a relic. Dinner was beans and cornbread from cans, eaten at the scarred oak table where we'd carved initials as kids. Terms, I started. Fork scraping plate. Ranch's trust held, you work it. Earn shares back. No apps. No cities. Truth too, tell me about Mom's last words. All of M. He swallowed hard, steam rising like ghosts. She said forgive you. For Ray. For everything. Said the affair was her shame. Drunk night after you went inside. Ray pushed. She regretted. Wanted me to. Protect you. Not hate. The revelation landed soft. No shock left to administer. I'd known. Deep down, Lena's guilt in every embrace post-prison. And you hated anyway, I said, not question. Hated the chain, he admitted. Thought breaking it freed us. Frees nothing, I countered. Just leaves you dangling. We talked till stars wheeled overhead, Ray's fire details. My prison tales unvarnished. Jake's Seattle sins laid bare. Dawn crept as he asked. Twist is, Dad, what now? You win. Win? The word soured. I'd dismantled his empire. Reclaimed the ranch. Forced the reckoning. But victory tasted like ash. Same as Lena's on that butte. No winners, I said finally. Just survivors. You stay. We rebuild. Leave. And the trust locks forever. He nodded slow. Eyes on the quilt. Stay. Weeks blurred into harvest rhythm. Fences mended. Hay baled. Jake's hands blistering on tools he'd scorned. Feds cleared him. Cooperation credited. Hale rotting in pretrial. Vic skating with probation. Riley visited once. Tentative bridge burning. But Jake waved her off gentle. Too much ghost to me yet. The twist hit Labor Day weekend. County fair in Billings, ribbons and rodeo. Air thick with fry oil and false hopes. Jake entered the bronc riding, channeling Ray's wild streak. Dust flying as he held 8 seconds. Crowd roaring. I watched from the stands, Lena's absence a hollow beside me. Pride warring with wariness. Post-ride, beer in hand, he grinned boyish. For Mom, then, casual as sin, found the Cayman docks in the safe. $500,000, yours. But the addendum? NDA on family dirt? That's cold. Dad. I froze. Foam bitter on lips. Leverage. Kept you honest. His grin faded, replaced by that Harlan steel. Honest? Or chained again? He pulled a folded paper from his pocket, countertrust. Drafted with a fair lawyer. Splitting the fund 50/50ths. NDA mutual. Sign. Or I walk with the truth. Raise fire. Mom's affair. Your manipulations. Mediate eat it. Tech prodigies dark roots. The ultimatum hung. Polarizing as a jury's deadlock. Blackmail or bond. Readers, hell. Even me split on right and wrong. Was it revenge's endgame? Or love's final forge? I took the pen, signing deliberate. Mutual. No chains. He exhaled, clapping my shoulder. Partners? Then. We drove home under harvest moon, Ranch lights, winking welcome. Happy? Tragic? Depends on your lens. Harlans don't do tidy. But as gravel crunched under tires, Lena's laugh ghosted the wind, and for once, the silence felt like absolution. Or maybe just the calm before the next Harlan storm.